Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am going to do a page in my Life Crafted album. I am using this stamp set from Kellie Stamps. It is called a Drink Up. And this is the inspiration for my page this week. I was at the hardware store, found this really cool paint chart, and decided that I would keep that on my desk for when inspiration struck, which I just so happened to do today. So the stamp set Drink Up is perfect. Just this week we decided to put together a little kind of drinks cart. Of course, we're not big drinkers, so we don't have a lot of drinks, so it really only filled the top layer of my drinks cart, so I filled the rest with books. So now I have a little books and booze cart, and that's what I'm going to make my page about today. So I started with a full page photo of my little cart there, and I've also got just a blank background page. Both of those are 5 inches by 8¼ inches, and I've gone ahead and hole punched them. Now, what I'm going to use to make my little paint chart is this Sherbet Smooth cardstock pack from scrapbook.com. I just picked out 3 colors. You can see they're my favorites. They work really nicely with the photo too, and I'm going to just make my little paint chips with those. I'm just kind of eyeballing them. I did my journaling first on the darkest pink color. I just typed that on my typewriter using my pink ink because everything I'm going to do on these paint chips, in air quotes, I'm going to do tone on tone. So I typed my journaling in pink, and I've made that sort of 2 inches, and I'm going to do the same thing with these repeat stamped pieces. So I'm using a couple of different stamps from the stamp set. I had to use this one here that says cheers. I decided to put that onto this sort of tealy coloured cardstock. I've picked out more of a kind of minty green ink, and so it kind of tones down the blueness and makes it a little bit more teal. But I'm going to stamp far more than I need. I only need 2 inches, but I'm going to stamp a little bit more just so that I can make sure that when I'm trimming that out, I'm trimming out a piece of the repeat stamping that I actually like or that works nicely. You'll see what I mean in this one here. This is a more kind of blocky stamp. It says it's 5 o'clock somewhere. And because it is a little bit more blocky as opposed to that kind of scripty font, I decided to stamp this one on the light pink with a light pink ink. So it is a very subtle pattern, because if I had done this with that darker ink on the blue, it would have been very, very overwhelming. But the kind of outliney piece of the stamp on this one is a little bit big and it's a little bit uneven, and it did make it a little bit difficult for me to repeat stamp it nicely. I actually really struggle repeat stamping these kind of very square stamps. There's not a lot of leeway in there, and so that's why I needed to stamp extra, because a couple of places I wasn't happy with the placement of the stamps and it had a much larger gap than in others. So I just kept stamping until I had about 2 inches of like nicely stamped space. So here we go. Here's my little paint chips on my background. I've got the original paint chart here, and I do like how there's like names of paints under there, and so I kind of want to replicate that as well. So I'm going to do that with the Because Adulting is Hard stamp, and I'm going to split that. I'm going to just partially ink it and split that into 3 going down the page. So I'm kind of eyeballing where these paint chips are going to go, and I'm doing something that you don't see me very often do. I'm using some repositionable adhesive to make sure I'm getting everything in the right place before I go ahead and stick it all down and start stamping. And the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that I don't ever bother adhering these pieces down with proper adhesive. I only noticed that after I stopped filming, so they are adhered down. So I kind of just eyeballed the spacing so that it was the same between all 3, with also a larger gap at the bottom, because I'm going to need to stamp my paint name down there as well. And then to replicate those lines, I'm just using a ruler and a gel pen, and I'm just gonna, again, I'm just eyeballing it. I'm drawing around the little paint chips. I am leaving a little bit of a gap. It's just a really small detail, and I think it adds a lot to it. The original paint chip was kind of I mean, obviously it's not, but it looks hand-drawn as well. So I quite like that rough kind of hand-drawn element to that. And now I'm going to add my paint names. So I'm just using some washi tape, and I'm going to cover up 2 lines of that stamp each time I stamp. So top and bottom and middle. And it's just to make sure that I get that partial inking perfect. Normally I just kind of eyeball it on the edge of my ink pad. I wanted it to work really well this time, so I'm doing things properly and kind of masking that off with the washi tape before I ink it up. Then you peel off the washi tape, stamp the stamp down, and it's all done. The only thing I am making sure is that in between those stampings, I do make sure to clean that stamp off really well so that there's no accidental kind of ghost stamping on there. So that's basically the paint chip side of my spread done. I did want to add a couple of little things to my photos here, and I love these icon stamps on the Drink Up stamp set, and I did have a kind of matching one. That stamp set is called Good Read, and it has those little books. So I've stamped the books next to the books, and I'm stamping a couple of these icons. I'll be honest, I don't often use a kind of cocktail glass for our drinks. We're a bit more basic. But I did like the shape of the stamps, so I've added those two together with the cocktail shaker. And then again, just for that kind of hand-drawn element, to tie those two sides together, I'm using the same ruler, the same pen, and I'm going to draw some little arrows pointing to each layer of the card. So kind of just adds to the graphic element of the page, I guess, and ties those two pages together just a little bit, because they are quite separate things, but I love that it just ties those two things together. Now, as often happens, I stopped filming there and started taking photos of my page, and I decided to turn the camera back on because I wanted to add a title as such to this page. The photo page to me looked a little bit empty, a little bit plain, and although I loved the photo, and to be fair, I did spend a lot of time taking that photo, setting it all up all nicely, and I moved a chair so that I could take the photo. I did want to add a title, and I'm going to end up just covering up a little bit of the photo. So I grabbed some white alphas. These are from Pink Fresh Studios. They were just sitting out on my desk, to be honest, as part of my monthly kit. So I'm going to use those to just add in the title Booze and Books. That's the name on my little cart. So it's not a huge change, but I just feel like adding the title on here just adds a little bit more detail. It kind of ties the whole page together, the whole spread together, because I've got the white title with the white cardstock. Anyway, it was a small change, but it made me a whole lot happier. Now, as always, I have a discount code for you down in the description box, so if you fancy picking up this stamp set for yourself, go ahead and grab that discount code and you'll get 10% off your order. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye guys.